Once again, good afternoon, brothers and sisters. Today, I have the honor of sharing a talk that lies at the very heart of the BCBP way of life. A talk that has shaped our community culture, guided our growth, and protected our unity for the last 45 years. A talk that continues to define who we are and how we live as disciples of Christ in the world of business and professionals. My topic this afternoon is submission to authority. This is not just a teaching, nor it is just a guideline or leadership principle. For us in the BCBP, submission to authority is a sacred tradition. It is one of the pillars of our community. It is deeply rooted in our identity. It is a tradition handed down faithfully since 1980. And it is the primary reason why the BCBP has survived, matured, and flourished for almost half a century. In Romans chapter 13, verse 1, it says, "Let everyone be subject to the authorities, for there is no authority that does not come from God, and the offices have been established by God." Allow me to begin with an experience I personally cannot forget. Years ago, while preparing a talk on submission to authority, my phone rang, and I didn't want to answer it because I was almost done with my talk. But when I checked, the call was then from the area managing director, Brother John Tiro. And so I answered it and he said, "Arvin, is it okay with you if I ask you to serve as the regional coordinator in your mission?" I was stunned. The timing was perfect, almost too perfect. I could have said no, but deep inside, I knew something important. In the BCBP, when a leader calls after discernment, it is God who is calling. And so even with doubts, I said the most BCBP response a brother can give. "Yes, Brother John, I will serve." And right there, while writing a talk on submission, God reminded me, submission to authority is not about submitting to a person. It is submitting to God who placed that person there. And that is the culture that has kept our community strong and united all these years. So brothers and sisters, I trust that you are all excited about the new BCBP way of life that God has gifted you. And it will be an exciting time for community life moving forward, especially when you embrace our topic today on submission to authority, which is the most challenging concern affecting the members of our community. I am sharing this with you to provide you with the proper guidelines in living to the fullest your community way of life. In this talk, I would like to highlight 3 important points. First, submission to authority is necessary in a healthy organization such as the BCBP. Second, submission to authority in the BCBP is an active personal relationship between members and leaders led by the Holy Spirit. And third, conflicts and disagreements are regular occurrences in the BCBP which can be resolved through humility of the members and their submission to God's justice and love. Let me emphasize it again, brothers and sisters. Submission to authority is necessary because it helps us live in humility, remain open to the Holy Spirit, and build strong, harmonious relationships with our leaders and our fellow members. I hope that is clear. So most members in our community feel uncomfortable about submitting to authority because they perceive it as a surrender to human authority. Their usual reaction is resistance, which often results in misunderstanding and a broken relationship among members. Today, we will discuss this topic from the standpoint of the BCBP and how we manage this issue within the community. Authority is a body or person who has the right to determine policies, directives, establish rules to lead members, and govern the organization. In the BCBP, this refers to the Board of Trustees, the Management Committee, and all the leaders responsible for leading and managing the community. So let me discuss with you the flow of authority in the BCBP. The entire BCBP is led by the National Leadership Team, which serves as the guardian of the community's vision, mission, and overall spiritual direction. The Board of Trustees functions as the policy-making body. At the same time, the Management Committee, headed by the BCBP President, is responsible for implementing the programs, plans, and decisions approved by the Board of Trustees. Recently, the BOT approved the creation of a cluster managing director role. The CMD heads a cluster, which is a grouping of 2 or 3 areas. The CMD reports to and follows the President, ensuring alignment and coordination across all areas within the cluster. Each area is headed by an area managing director who oversees 3 to 4 regions. The AMD reports to the CMD and ensures that area activities and directions are consistent with national goals. Each region is led by a regional council director. We are under the Zamboanga Peninsula region. The RCD, who supervises 3 to 5 chapters, reports to the AMD and provides pastoral and operational oversight to the chapters. The chapter, the Pagadian chapter, for example, is the local unit of the BCBP. It is headed by the chapter head, who reports to the RCD and shepherds the members within the chapter. An outreach, which is a group information toward becoming a full chapter, is headed by an outreach head. In our case, we have EPIL outreach. The outreach head reports to the RCD and coordinates closely with the chapter head of the mother chapter, guiding its formation. So as you can see, brothers and sisters, the community is well structured, functions effectively, despite the diverse expertise, experiences, social statuses, and roles of its members. The gift of humility from God, together with our willingness to submit to rightful authority, brings order and harmony to our community. All members, including leaders, are called to follow the guidance of the leaders above them. Authority in the BCBP takes many forms and purposes. For one, it is a gift from the Lord. Our God is a God of order, and through authority, He leads us toward our vision and mission. Brothers and sisters, it is very important to remember that the BCBP is not a social or civic club, but an action-oriented spiritual organization dedicated to serve the Lord and our brothers and sisters. Again, we are not a social or a civic club, but a spiritual organization. This identity makes our submission to authority meaningful and essential. In the BCBP, authority is expressed through the service of our leaders who work together with unity and purpose to ensure that everyone in the community functions as one cohesive group. Our leaders are available 24/7 to guide and support the BCBP community, helping to achieve our goals, address community issues, and care for the members under their responsibility. Do not be ashamed or do not be shy to call on your leaders even at night, even at the holy hours in the morning, because it is their task to answer your call whenever you need them. Submission to authority, therefore, means adhering to the directions, the policies, the rules that govern the BCBP. However, its deeper meaning goes beyond compliance. In the BCBP, submission to authority is a personal relationship between the member and the leader, guided by the Holy Spirit, with love as the primary objective, expressed through care, cooperation, and mutual support. This relationship involves three persons. We have the leader, the member, and God. Without God at the center, the relationship cannot be sustained. There are also three virtues highlighted here. We have personal relationships, love, and care. These virtues enable us to give ourselves to one another. Submission to authority begins with the obedience to the established directives, policies, and guidelines of the BCBP, but it is also demonstrated through the cooperation support that the members offer to their leaders. Take note, leaders do struggle when members do not follow their instructions. And the success of their service largely depends on the community support. Submission also involves being involved, and when necessary, respectfully disagreeing with the leader's position. Our leaders should allow this kind of health dynamic in the community because sometimes the best ideas come from the members, and such openness encourages everyone to support the leadership. So for the members, we may at times complain or disagree with our leaders on certain issues, but in the end, we are called to respect and follow their final decision. Submission is also shown through openness to correction and suggestions that help strengthen our BCBP culture. So as leaders, we continually remind our members not to be easily upset when leaders correct them, because these corrections are meant to help us grow and improve in our service. On the other hand, leaders should also be humble enough to admit when they make mistakes. And as members, when we follow and stay open to their guidance and reminders, we show that we care for our leaders and that we value and support their service. Since we are a community bound together by love, we all share responsibility for one another and for the community as a whole. Brothers and sisters, submission to authority is very important in an organization like the BCBP. Why? Because it promotes unity, peace, and harmony among all its members. Without submission to authority, chaos and disorder will prevail, leading to disunity and confusion. Just in the same way, in a family, when the children and the mother do not submit to the father's authority, the family more easily falls into conflict and disintegration. In the BCBP, however, submission to authority does not mean blind servile obedience. We are called to follow norms that reflect our Christian values. We obey only those rules, directions, and guidelines that are aligned with the law of God, with the law of land, and our moral and religious convictions. We also obey those that respect our dignity and personal conscience and are not meant for the personal gain of any leader. If an instruction does not meet these standards, we have the right to refuse, but we must always express our refusal with courtesy, humility, and respect. As a community, we are encouraged to submit to one another out of reverence for the Lord. Our relationships in the BCBP are uniquely anchored in the humility of Jesus. Regardless of our status in life, whether we are lawyers, doctors, business owners, corporate officers, or public officials, when we enter the door of our community, we stand on equal ground. We set aside our titles, and we submit to the authority of our leaders in love and in faith. Our leaders are not perfect, yet we believe that God appoints them for a purpose by His direction, with His permission. Therefore, brothers and sisters, when we choose to submit to the authority of our leaders, we are ultimately submitting to the authority of God. For those who refuse to be led will never learn to lead. To my fellow leaders who are here, let us also be reminded that our authority is not for our personal benefit, Whenever we exercise authority, our motive must be love and never self-interest. Our leadership should model Christ's humility and compassion so that others may see God working through us. To all our members, we make the Lord very happy when we obey our leaders. However, sometimes we allow our human nature to prevail over things that are beyond our control. We use our reason rather than our heart. We prefer to be right rather than to be kind. We look at the minor negative aspects rather than the greater positive attributes of the leaders. Then, unknowingly, we become resistant to authority. So, where does this resistance come from? Sometimes, it can be a reaction to a previous culture. So, for example, when we join the BCBP after being part of another community or organization, we may unconsciously compare its processes and activities with what we were used to before. Without realizing it, those comparisons can make us resistant to the system and the way of life we now belong to. Another form of resistance is a rebelliousness found in the world today. Many struggle with authority because of the negative examples they observe. So if you look at what's happening around the country, we have misuse of power, lack of integrity, poor leadership in society. Resistance to authority can also stem from a false notion of humility. Some people refuse to humble down because they fear being abused or taken advantage by others. At times, resistance is simply a negative reaction against correction or direction. And very often, this attitude is rooted in pride. A common example of this is when a regular member looks down on a new member in the BCBP and would say, I've been here longer than you, or I'm a lawyer, I'm a doctor, or worse, you would say, I'm a contractor, and you're just a small businessman. That kind of pride results in resistance and breaks the unity of the community. Resistance to authority can also be avoidance of responsibility. Some members do not serve because they say they have no time, they have no talent, when in truth, they simply do not want additional responsibilities. So brothers and sisters, to overcome this resistance, we must learn to accept our limitations, be willing to grow, and embrace the humility of Christ. But when we allow resistance to grow in our hearts, it leads to conflicts and disagreements between members and leaders. In my 25 years in the BCBP, I have observed several common sources of conflict. And what are these? Unfulfilled expectations. When leaders give assignments or set expectations and these are not met, misunderstandings and tensions begin to develop. We have neglected requests or unanswered queries. Members feel disregarded when their concerns or suggestions are not given attention. Another form of resistance is disregarded ideas. In the BCBP, we are blessed with many talented people. Everyone wants to contribute, but only one idea can be chosen at a time. And when someone's idea isn't selected, disappointment would normally set in. There's also a feeling of being reprimanded or embarrassed. Sometimes a leader may speak in a tone that is perceived as harsh or dismissive. Members may feel scolded or insulted, even when that was not the intention. So sometimes you would feel na, gitasan mo kong tingog ni sis Juan. And then, when you reprimand the member, the sister would say, inani mo gina kong tingog, taas mo gina kong tingog. So, there's also feeling unrecognized or neglected. Some members feel hurt when they are not acknowledged. You know, when I was chapter head, I made it a point to smile at everyone and greet everyone as I entered the gathering, because a little warmth goes a long way in making our members feel valued. So I would always smile, even if sometimes a member of the music ministry would come in late. Sabi ko, "Sumo ka," smile lang ako. No offense to the music ministry. So another aspect is failed business dealings. This is one of the most sensitive and explosive sources of conflict in our community. Loans between members and members that are not repaid, or business agreements that fall apart, often lead to people withdrawing from the community. Pautang is one of the most common causes of serious misunderstandings. We also have willful disregard of community policies and guidelines. Some leaders know the policies but deliberately violate them. This causes confusion and sends the wrong message to the members. And another one, which is very familiar, gossiping or maritesing. When members do not agree with the leader's decision or direction, instead of bringing their concerns to the proper forum, some resort to gossip or side comments. Brothers and sisters, recognizing these sources of resistance help us build a more loving, humble, and united community. We may come from different backgrounds, experiences, and disciplines, but we share something profound in common. We love the Lord, and we choose to submit ourselves to His will. And this brings us to the next important point: disagreements in the Brotherhood. Even in a loving community like the BCBP, disagreements are inevitable. But disagreements do not have to destroy relationships. As often we say, disagreements are possible without the need to be disagreeable. We can agree to disagree, but we must never allow conflict to lead hurt, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. So when disagreements arise, they must be addressed immediately to prevent relationship from breaking and to protect the unity of the community. The best way to resolve differences is with humility. God will always provide a way forward if both parties have faith in justice and guidance. If conflicts cannot be privately resolved between two members, the BCBP has a clear, prayerful settlement process to follow. However, today's digital world introduces new challenges. I don't know if you're guilty of this, but some members share their heartaches on social media. Instead of speaking personally with their leaders or the persons involved, posting concerns publicly, whether on Facebook, Instagram, or even in group chats, only magnifies the issue and causes unnecessary hurt. Friends may react or comment without understanding the real story, causes further division. Brothers and sisters, let me lovingly discourage this. Social media can never resolve our issues. It only prolongs and magnifies them. The right way is to speak directly to the person or the leader involved. If this is not possible, approach a trusted member who can help. Our community guidelines encourage the parties involved to first meet personally in a prayerful and conciliatory spirit, listening to each other and allowing the Holy Spirit to guide the conversation. After the meeting, both sides must be at peace and must embrace the solutions agreed upon. If the disagreements remains unresolved, it can be escalated through the proper channels. So from the member, you go to your action group leader. If not resolved, the action group leader will elevate it to the unit leader. He may elevate it to the chapter head or any of his directors. And if not, we go up to the regional council director. If the conflict involves leaders, it must be resolved immediately by the chapter head and then by the regional council director, and finally, the area managing director. Disagreements involving leaders from chapter head and above follow a separate process handled by the BCBP Ethics Board composed of the BCBP Spiritual Director, the past presidents, and the past chairman of the Board of Trustees. It's very important to remember litigation or court action should always be the last resort. As a Christian community, we strive to resolve our differences in the spirit of brotherly love, forgiveness, and humility. So brothers and sisters, you have seen, you have heard the importance of submission to authority. It is essential to community life because it allows us to live with humility and the grace of God. It is the very foundation of a harmonious, united, and vibrant BCBP community. Let me close with the words from Hebrews chapter 13, verse 17. Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they keep watch over your souls as those who will give an account. Let them do this with joy and not with grief, for that would be of no benefit to you. Thank you, brothers and sisters.